Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do roll call. School board members, Perkowitz and Brott, they're both absent. We still have a quorum. Won't be able to do any resolutions, but there's none on here. So let's move directly into 4.0 and Superintendent Colness, why don't we start with the enrollment update, please?
Yeah, the enrollment report as of February 1st was uploaded in the board book for you to review, and you can see that we are at 1,811 students, grades K through 12, which is pretty low compared to where we've been the last few years. So, and we've talked about that in previous meetings, that definitely due to the enrollment decline, we're going to have to make sure that we are making some adjustments with our budget. There's a typo in there when it says 20, it should be 23-24 school year in my notes, not 23-34 school year. That would be quite a ways from now. So we'll see what would happen from that. But I just noticed that now. But we are always taking a look at ways if we can either make some reductions through attrition or other ways to make our budget work. But we have some, and Amanda will talk about it too when she talks about the revised budget, we have a little freeboard right now. However, we have to be very smart about what we're doing moving into the future. And of course, there are the unknowns with the in St. Paul, so we'll talk about that as well. But as far as enrollment goes, like I said, 1,811 students, grades K through 12 as of February 1st.
Questions on the enrollment report?
I have a question. Do we know where these students are going or why they're leaving?
I would say a big part of it would be our EL population has declined from over 200 students to probably less than 100 now. So primarily like our Somali families, many of them have moved to the Twin Cities, to St. Cloud. That would be a large part of the population.
Okay, and does that include the last 4 that we just lost in the last month? Or no?
Anything up to February 1st. Yeah.
Other questions on enrollment?
Yes.
Oh, just wait till comment time, and I'll call you on time. Because I'm asking the board, I'm running a board meeting.
Okay.
So if you have comments during citizens comment time, I'll call upon you if you talk to the superintendent, or I'll be happy to step aside and see what we want to talk about. But the questions are addressed to the board. Does the board have any other comments on the enrollment update?
Sounds good.
So
I apologize.
no, that's okay. So if you do want to speak, certainly run over to the superintendent, or maybe you have already. Otherwise, when it's time, I can certainly come to the side and visit with you. So we get you on the
To fill out that.
the agenda here. 4.2, let's go to finance update, please. Go ahead, Amanda.
All right, so I'll start with the board report, and I don't actually have very many comments on the January numbers. Things were pretty consistent. There wasn't anything that was out of the ordinary, so most of my comments are on the budget. So the revised budget that's in there is built off of December's ADM, which is 1817, so 6 more than what we have today. The other note I wanted to talk about in the federal revenues, so that line item could possibly be adjusted based off of decisions that are made by the district. So right now, we're currently coding a lot of mental health to ESSER 3, but we do have some room to change what we're doing in there, and potentially add more staffing or other things that are already budgeted. But we're just trying to use the money the best way possible. So potentially that could go higher. We've also added some budgets into SERVS today. SERVS is the federal system that allows us to draw down money. So I added a budget for some additional dollars there, and I don't know if they'll be approved. So if they are, then that can be added to that revised budget as well. And the expenditures are already in there because there are individuals on staff already. So we're still potentially making some minor adjustments since there hasn't been any. Since we're not on the docket to approve this today, I might make some more minor things. And then the budgets in the smaller funds. So in the food service fund is, since we're back to parent pay, it's a little bit harder to estimate what we're going to have, since we'll have students that pay ahead, pay behind. But I did look back to prior COVID years, and for based off of our ADMs, the number in revenues is pretty similar to what was at that point in time. And the community education fund, if you look at our revised budget compared to the last 2 years, you'll notice that our budget for revenues is quite a bit lower. And that's because we've had transfers in the past that I didn't budget for this year. So if we do need them at year end, they would just be unbudgeted revenues and expenses in the general fund. And then the construction fund, that is just interest in there. That's all that is budgeted in there. And then our expenses, I don't know exactly what else we'll do with those construction funds, so I wanted to give us a little budget in the current year to use those funds up. And the only other thing I was gonna note is that you'll notice in the debt service line this year for current expenditures, our bond payment came due in January. They're due February 1st. So we pay that in January, so most of our expenses out of that fund are now complete. Any questions on budget to actual or the revised budget?
So madam, my question would be, on that construction, what you have sitting in that fund, that's not, long-term facility management, that's for,
Correct.
or
It's
you're not
just-
using those funds to pay that bond, are you?
No.
No.
Okay, so that's just extra?
Yep, so that would just be bond proceeds that weren't paid for or we haven't used yet from like the roof projects and all of those. So some things came in under budget. So we had a little money left to use on similar projects. So we do have to still abide by what the bond.
That was my question. So whatever
So
the
far we
bond called
haven't.
for is all that we can use that. So if we
Yes.
don't, or Mike, if we don't find something in the
Right.
near future, you'll just keep that in there?
It'll just stay there until we have a project that is in those same lines, but the bond had a lot of uses, so I think we can easily use those funds on things. So if we find things that are currently coded to the general fund that we could code over there, we can do that in the current year as
Okay.
well.
One of the examples would be the fencing for the CMS softball fields.
Yep.
You know, that hasn't been finished yet. You know, they took it out last fall and then it snowed, so we haven't, but that's about a $60,000 bill that we could use those funds.
That'll
Okay.
come out of that long-term.
Yes,
bond.
yeah,
Okay.
those are the kind of, you know, that's an LTFM project, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the first part of the report, board
I
members?
have a quick question. What is the outstanding balance of what's owed for lunches? Like, do we have a really high balance of unpaid lunches?
I don't know the number off the
Okay.
top of my head, but we did send out letters today and there was 234 letters
Oh, wow.
of students. But however, if you were 5 cents negative, it prints out a letter. So
Okay,
there's going to be a variety of how much that debt is. But I can certainly get that for future meetings, but I don't
Yeah.
want to guess.
and I don't know if this is a question for you or just a question in general. Is it too late for people to apply for the free and reduced lunch? So like when we send out you're late, we could also send free and reduced?
It's never too late.
Okay,
And we encourage that all, you know, that's,
Yeah.
yep.
I know it's okay.
Mhm. And you can apply online and
Mhm.
it goes directly to the account. So, and I think that information is on the letter.
Is
Have
it?
to
Okay.
check, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, we have two kinds of debt there too. We have some old debt, something that could have been accumulated. Let's say, even though meals were free last year, we could have had some things with the deli, et cetera, right?
Mhm.
And then there also would be the new debt that's been accumulated this year.
Yep, no,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Amanda, go ahead and close the second. report
Perfect.
if you would.
The only other thing I had on the treasurer's report are the balances. You'll notice our debt service amount ends up at a negative, but that's where we were at in the prior year too. And we'll receive more dollars from the county in May that'll bring us back to a positive amount. But other than that, the balances were pretty similar based off of the month and what happened. That adjustment was just a coding error that I found, so I was just fixing where it should have went when it happened, so. And then, I did notice that I didn't update the interest percent. So if anyone's curious, that MASLAP interest amount is actually 4.43%, not 3.75%.
Yeah. And on a positive note, you can see that it's higher than last year. So we're
It is.
actually generating much more revenue there than we had in previous years due to the interest rates.
But on that TD Ameritrade, we're about a year into that
Mhm.
now, right? What's our rate of return? Have we gotten anything back yet?
Um,
Roughly?
we have about 500,000 left in that. And I mean, we are generating interest, but I don't, it's not
Not high.
great. Well, I shouldn't say that, because we're just getting minimal amounts in there and they're investing for longer terms. So the amounts that we get are just periodically, whereas in our Maslach account, we get a fairly good portion of interest monthly.
Mhm.
So, but I could look for next month.
I
and
just
see.
would be
Mhm.
curious on what.
Yeah.
What it did in the year.
Yep, I can do that.
And then if it's not doing very well, maybe that's something that the finance committee, I know we are the finance committee, but
Right.
maybe that's something that the board talks about and says, hey, let's look at moving this stuff around.
Right, because we could certainly take it all out of there and put it in the Maslach fund. Mhm.
Yeah, originally the Maslach interest rates were so low that we
wasn't
were
doing
able to find a little better avenue for those funds.
I'm just curious. I
Yep.
mean, so
But
Yep,
it's kind of
I'll find it.
reversing now. It's changing a little bit. So.
board members, any other questions on the treasurer's report? All right, hearing none, let's move on to administrative and department head reports. I really don't have anything besides the superintendent's report tonight. So Superintendent Colness.
Yeah, I'll start off, it would have been nice to have Green Wave recognition tonight. However, it's a busy night with girls basketball, boys basketball, et cetera. But, I just want to really, on February 1st, Region 8A hosted the AAA banquet in Monoman. And so every school, there are 44 school districts in Region 8A, they select a local winner, female and male, or most of them do. So our our winners at the local level were Bryn Hansen and Caleb Zedlick. And so there were about 250 people that attended the banquet on that day, including Mr. Lohr, and he got to take a picture with the kids and everything, which was great. But Caleb was selected as the subsection winner, and he also was selected as the Section 8A winner. So he will advance on to the state and be introduced at halftime of, I believe, the AA boys basketball game at the state tournament. And they will announce the winner earlier that day for the state. But very proud of both of those student athletes. They great kids. And I've attended that since it started, the AAA banquet in Monoman, and it's great to see the kids because really, those are your top-notch kids in your school buildings, and it was a great day for our kids here as well as the rest in the region. So congratulations, and we'll get them in to get recognized next month, hopefully, and get them their Green Wave certificate. Legislatively, I did send out the latest update from Ewald, which is the consulting firm for Minnesota Association of School Administrators. Also, we attend tomorrow morning at 7 will be the MREA. If you have a half an hour, you can jump on that. There's a Zoom for MREA. And then every Friday morning, MSBA gives us it's been so much information though. It's coming so fast, you can hardly keep up, to be honest with you.
Tried keeping notes on Friday and
Yeah.
my hand was cramped.
And they were coming at you like 100 miles an hour with everything, and you don't know what's going to stick,
Yeah.
To date, they've had over 1,500 bills introduced in both the House and the Senate. I mean, that's a record it's so they're struggling to keep up even, to put those proposed bills out there. So to stay on top of it's very difficult. One thing right now that has passed through the House though would be the universal school meals, free meals for students. That needs to make it through the Senate and then to the governor's desk. They're trying to work out some things though, because that could negatively impact school districts as far as compensatory revenue. They said we're going to be held harmless some way, but we haven't been given the specifics on what's going to happen there. But that is something that looks like it's going to fast track through, but they are trying to get some things figured out that, so if we, all of a sudden our children are all going to get universal free meals, who's going to complete those free and reduced lunch applications? Because that's something that's very important for us for other aid categories. Diane Stordahl was on Zoom last week. She testified. You can see under community, there's a general community education proposal out there to increase funding. So she was on for about 3 minutes. She said that was entertaining. I haven't looked at the video, but she did testify in front of the Senate. So I didn't highlight a whole lot else except for, there's continued talk about unemployment extended over the summertime for hourly employees, which could have a real big impact on school districts. We think about even summer school employees, we hire quite a few people to work in our summer school program. Well, if they're collecting unemployment, how is that going to work? Maybe we'll have fewer workers, but it's also going to impact the districts financially. And then there's also a discussion about, the Family Medical Leave Act, about 24 weeks of paid leave. So those are all things that are undecided, but those are things that we're keeping an eye on. All of the groups that we are a part of are continuing to push for 5 and 5 on the formula and filling the special ed cross subsidy. Those are the big things. So if you get a chance to talk to your legislators, you know, those are two things that give us flexibility and would help all of the districts in our state.
I
So,
think, just to add to the legislative update, if anybody wants to go up off the board, what is it, this,
March 20th.
no, 16th? Don't we have something this week at, our local one?
Oh, yep, yep, and that's coming up here. I think I put it on there, the intergovernmental
Yeah.
retreat.
So
Yep.
just let Mike
Yep.
know if anybody wants to go to that,
Yeah.
um,
So I'm not going to go into great detail on all of the bills that are introduced down in St. Paul, but you know, we will, if there's something where they have an action alert where they want us to contact legislators, I'll make sure I communicate that out to you as well as school board members. But it's fast and furious down there, and I'm curious to hear. Every week it changes. So Sam Walseth is the lobbyist for MREA, and he's very good, but he's given us a lot of new information each week, and it's hard to keep up. So. Parent teacher conferences, just so you're aware, they're going on tonight, tomorrow night, and then on Thursday at the elementary schools. The middle school, they have theirs coming up a little bit later on Wednesday nights on the 22nd of February and the 1st of March. Senior high had a session last Wednesday, and they will have a session this coming Wednesday. Hopefully Mother Nature cooperates with all of those. And yeah, so that'll be the final round then for the year for parent teacher conferences. Staffing continues to be a challenge. Just we're no different than any other district around. When I sit on Zooms with all the superintendents, they talk about the same thing. And we're trying something a little bit different this week. We're blasting out some radio ads on all of the stations with Leighton Broadcasting, advertising for bus drivers, food service workers, special ed teachers, paraprofessionals, district mechanic, and substitute teachers. So if you hear the ad, you know, you see the bill come across next month, that's what that's for. We're going to give it a whirl for a week here and see what the results will be from that. But, and we'll be advertising, you know, we're always advertising for special ed teachers, but we'll post jobs this week now for next school year, you know, on Ed Post, because we have some teachers that are on basically a variance that we have to post those positions anyway. Level 4 joint powers request. I've shared that with you before. We're looking for help legislatively with the Crookston School District and all of the schools in the special ed co-op. So we have a proposed joint powers agreement, and we met with Senator Mark Johnson and Representative Deb Keel about 2 months ago to see if they would try to connect to a bonding bill if that becomes available. The ask from the group is about $8 million to build a facility in Crookston that we would be able to provide services for a level 4 setting. You know, it would be a place where we could provide some really great services for students with the goal of having them back in our building our buildings as soon as possible. But it's a service. We're the only part of the state that does not have that service available to us. So we're hoping we can get some support. Last week, we met on Zoom with Rob Kupak, Senator Rob Kupak from Moorhead, and Representative Jim Joy from Hawley. They're both Democrats. The two up here are Republicans, so they're hoping we could have some support on both sides to maybe attach this to a potential bonding bill and some financial support. So they have done that in other parts of the state. So we're optimistic, but we will continue to push for that. And Tiffany Littman is setting up meetings now to go in and talk to school boards about what this would look like in school districts and, you know, what the role of the ASEC in the school districts would be. So hopefully we'll get her in here in the next month or so to talk to the board and give them updates. And she's done a lot of work with that. The East Grand Forks Intergovernmental Retreat, that's usually sponsored by the Chamber. That'll be on the 16th over at the Legion, I believe, and starts at noon. And Senator Mark Johnson and Deb Keel will be zooming in from St. Paul, but it's a good way to listen to what's going on in the city and with the chamber and with the school district. So if anybody's interested, please let me know. We can get you signed up there. So that is all I have in my report.
all right. Thanks, Superintendent Colmes. Why don't you just jump directly into committee reports, if you would, please?
Okay, committee wise, Health and Safety Committee committee met on February 7th at 1:30 via Zoom. I was in this room in case anybody wanted to attend in person. That's one of the 4 required meetings we have throughout the year. And the minutes were shared. There's a hard copy for you. And they were also shared with the committee earlier and then distributed to the entire staff last Friday morning. So, and those are posted in every building as required by law, so. The calendar committee met on the 7th as well after school, and we're scheduled to meet again on, it should be 2/28. I must have been typing a little crazy this morning. Or 2/28. We're making good headway. I think we have some real, I would say we're about 80% of the way. We have some decisions that still need to be made as far as Smart Start, parent teacher conference dates, but for the most part, the fundamental calendar is, it just kind of matched up with the days. We had about 6 days to work with, and that's about what people selected. So we really didn't have to do a whole lot of surveying. And we're waiting for some information back from each building, and we'll be bringing that forward. And we've got quite a bit of time to work, but the next meeting is on the 28th. In negotiations, I met with the paraprofessional group last Wednesday. We're working on a few documents there as far as qualifying for highly qualified status, and I'll be sharing that. Worked with Carla and Nancy today, and we're hoping we can share that information with the group either tomorrow or on Wednesday so they can review that. And the administrative assistant contract, I did meet with their representative on Friday to talk about, they had countered with a proposal, and then I came back with some numbers and asked them to look at if they could keep it under a certain percentage. And then so I'm working with that group and with the paraprofessional group, and hopefully we make good headway here and can get some things wrapped up.
So I'll just jump, Eric and I are on negotiation committee, but for Amanda and Lindsay, just so you know, on the Paris side, probably 2 meetings ago, we felt that the Paris were ready, that we were at an agreement. They've met with their group, came back, and it's more of what they're asking for is some administrative things that are within the contract. So the negotiations committee has delegated Superintendent Colness just to work directly with them, because it'll be the administration office that has to pull that information to provide to them, and then they'll vote. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that next meeting we'll have a contract in front of us that we'll be able to vote. So I'm confident we're getting there. So
Yeah, it was a good meeting the other day. So I'm looking forward to giving them the information and see what they think.
all right, thanks, Superintendent Colness. Let's move on to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve as presented, or if you need something pulled, certainly make that motion as well.
I'll move.
Okay, questions or discussion on the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as uploaded in the board book signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so let's move to 6.0, opportunities for citizens to speak on items not on the agenda. I do not have any, but yep, Mr. Lund.
We did have one request from Jamie Lund from 704 8th Street Southeast. And we'll have to have him come up to the microphone so everybody can hear him. And then turn it back to you, Brandon.
Yep, please. And then just hit the button on there, Mr. Lund. And I usually try to keep it to 5 minutes, but we got
Well,
plenty
you
of
guys have talked for about 45, so you should give me 6.
time. You have time. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you.
Hit the
Just-
green light.
Push the button till it turns green.
Push button.
There you go.
Kind of wrote a few notes here. It's kind of tough to bring stuff up when you don't get to talk for like a half hour. But this down enrollment, does anybody have any numbers as far as how many students have been pulled out because of the Wuhan restrictions and homeschooling because of the coronavirus?
How many kids are homeschooling because of the
Yes,
coronavirus?
do we have a number on how many parents have been?
Our homeschool numbers are around 50 students,
Okay,
which is up about 20 from probably a few years ago.
okay,
So it's not unusual. I would say it's not because of the coronavirus. Homeschooling is an option for parents.
well, I think
So that-
if everybody really thinks about it, I think a lot of it, the bump in numbers is because of the mandates and what everything's been done to our children because of it, but okay. The school lunch debt, have to say that we've been in a hole too. You know, we put money on it and then we get, the email that says, well, you're $20 in the hole, and we're like, oh, shoot. You know, so we put 50 or whatever on it, but you know, about 3 years ago, and I know I'm kind of running off the rail here, but I haven't been able to get to a school board meeting since last September. So I've got a lot of bottled up and pent up stuff, but about 2.5 years ago, they were penalizing and making fun of children that didn't have enough money on their account, so they're feeding them sun butter sandwiches. You know what's on the menu right now? Sun butter sandwiches. There's enough parents out here, and I've got a few things about parents, and I think we can fix a lot of problems by letting the parents get back involved in the school. By no means do we have a lot of extra money at the end of the month, but if somebody would say to us, you know, anonymously, however it could be done politically correct, which I think is a bunch of whatever, but say we've got 10 kids or 20 kids and we're $500 in the hole between these kids. I don't think there's a parent out there that wouldn't say, you know what, I think we got an extra $20-30 to pay for these kids to eat a damn lunch. I've talked to Mr. DeWitt. I've also talked to Mr. Grassel, and I've brought these things up. I don't know if anything's been done about it. And Mr. Grassel is one hell of a man. And I don't even really need to say that, but he's a good man, and you guys are damn lucky to have him here. Mr. DeWitt, I told him I didn't think too much of him at the beginning of the year, but he's getting there. But we need to get the parents back in the schools. We do. You have kids in school still? You? Okay, and I know you do. We are down, I know, paras, we're down bus drivers, we're down, which we don't have. We need somebody watching these buses. I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. They know more sex positions and more swear words than I do because of the bus. And when they say them in school, they get punished. The buses are horrible. You've got 4th, 5th, and 6th graders on the bus, and you've got kindergartners, 1st, 2nd graders on the bus, and they're all saying stuff. I don't know where the heck half of it's coming from. Maybe some of it's from me. I don't, I let something slip maybe, but it's horrible, the stuff that they're hearing on the bus. And I see the little bus drivers, or the few bus drivers that we have, they're stressed out. There needs to be at least one person on that bus. There is, I'm going to stop there and.
Mr. Lund, I don't usually like to go back and forth, but
Okay.
I've got a question for that. When you say one person, you're talking in addition to the bus driver.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
just somebody walking
Sorry to
down,
interrupt you.
a parent saying, hey, you just. And it'll fix a lot of stuff. The same thing can be done with lunch. The same thing could be done with paras. You guys don't need to hire people to take care of our kids. You know who can take care of our kids? Our community and the parents. If somehow me, you, my wife, all the other parents, whatever, could get something involved. You know, and I talked to Mr. Colness, you know, I know there's gonna be background checks involved. Fine. There's background checks involved if you hire somebody. You have to hire somebody, you have to pay somebody. Let us do it. There's enough parents. My baby is in second grade. There's 24 kids in his class. And I told Mr. Colness, 24 kids, you take half of the kids out. So, I mean, you take half the parents involved. You still have 24 parents with 12 kids. 24 parents just in that one class. They could watch lunch. They could watch the bus. They could watch whatever. It would take, you know, maybe 1-2 days a month, if that. The entire year with all the parents, and we'd get involved with our children. Our children would know that we're watching them, so they can't get away with all the shit. That's probably where they get the bus stuff, I'm sure, from, but let us get involved. For the last 3 years, I have not been able to have lunch with my baby that's now in second grade one time because of all the bat flu or whatever you want to call it restrictions. It's ridiculous. You know, I've got a 4-year or 4th grader gonna be in 5th grade next year. He's not gonna want me to come to lunch with him anymore. So I've missed all that too. It's taken away from the parents, it's taken away from the kids, and it's put undue stress on the teachers. We've seen a lot of teachers leaving the profession because of all this red tape. I know I'm way past my 6 minutes. Like I said, with the new hires, you hire somebody, background checks. You hire us, background checks, you don't have to pay us. We'll get involved. I don't think there's too many parents out there that won't sacrifice an hour or 2 a week. You know, the bus schedule right now is so erratic. You know, I lose a half hour every morning anyways, getting my kids on the bus. I think that's kind of probably it. I'm probably missing a year worth of pent up frustration, but one last thing I'm gonna say, and maybe 2 people will like it and maybe nobody will, but Lindsay and Amanda, don't let these guys push you around like they did last year. I've seen it where you guys have wanted to be more on the parent side, I feel, but you've been bullied. Don't let them bully you. Don't. You don't work for these guys. You don't. You don't work for him. If there was more parents here, which I'm ashamed that there is not more parents here. I'm ashamed. But you work for your kids. And I hate to say it, you work for us, the parents, not these guys. Don't let them bully you. If anybody's gonna bully anybody, you talk to me and I'll bully. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lund.
Paulus. Thank you all.
Okay, let's move on to 7.0 to approve the agenda. There's nothing that needs to be added to the agenda, so I'm going to approve the agenda as it's presented in board book.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approving signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.0 is is to accept donations to the school district. So, well, 8.1 is, so if somebody would be so kind to read those donations.
Okay, I will move to accept the donations, following donations from various donors to New Heights for PBIS t-shirts for $5,006. From the EGF Blue Line Club to the Senior High for boys hockey in the amount of $7,535. From the EGF Arts and Crafts to CMS for music and bell set for $2,150. From the East Grand Forks Sports Boosters Club to Senior High for sportsmanship banner for $495. A donation from Caulfield Studios to New Heights for PBIS in the amount of $1,257. From Caulfield Studios to South Point for PBIS in the amount of $1,315, for a total donations of $17,758.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? Certainly, thank you to those individuals. I know this various donors and our principals, I'm not here from New Heights, but that was pretty neat. I think every single, Mike, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on those t-shirts, every single one of the
Friends
kids.
Not at New Heights. They all got a t-shirt,
Which is
K
pretty-
through 2.
Pretty cool for the kids. So again, thank you to, I know it's just called various donors on here. Thank you for that donation and certainly thank you to all the other ones. With that being said, all those in favor of accepting the donation signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move to 9.0. Payments of claims and accounts.
I would move to approve checks 124,269 through 124,404 in the amount of $351,126.37 plus EFTs in the amount of $836,539.91 for a total of $1,187,666.28.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the bills that have been uploaded in the board book? All right, all those in favor of payment of claims and accounts signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 is board member comments already, so. Amanda, I'll start with you.
Okay, well, I will agree with Jamie. It's very disappointing when there's no parents out here. I came to every meeting almost for a very long time. And we need more parent involvement, and I think some of the ideas that you had were good ideas and valid ideas, and they're things that I do plan on looking at as options. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Amanda. Lindsay, Eric, go ahead.
No, nothing additional.
Yeah, I would agree with Amanda. I think there's that committee that has been formed, isn't there, Amanda? That
Yeah, the advisory committee.
maybe that would be a way to get some involvement.
Mhm.
So that's all.
So I'm actually gonna echo that. Mr. Lund, I know you gave your information to Superintendent Colness, but I took some notes up here that I'd like to follow up on and then reach back out to you. I mean, I can reach back out through the superintendent, but I think on these ones I'll reach directly to you. So just make sure that before you leave that we just either have your email or I have a phone number that I can get back, but certainly appreciate your comments. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. And one last thing is I have this, we got a vote on, it doesn't have to be board business, but Northwest Regional Development Commission. Superintendent Colness, what's this about?
Yeah, they asked there's one nominee, so basically it's vote for one person, the only person that applied to be on that board.
So I'm not
So-
quite sure. This is new to me what this means. We don't have to vote. I could just throw it in the garbage. But it looks like it's Gus Booth from the World School District, but it really doesn't. It's stating that he's going to be the representative for the Northwest Regional Development Commission. And represent our.
Yeah, and they send those out, right? And we get those. So I saw it today
We
when,
get them for MREA all the time, which we're all well versed in,
yeah,
but to be honest, I've never heard of the Northwest Regional Development Commission, so.
and you don't have to fill that out, but it would be, if you would like to vote for him, we sure
So
can.
we can have a conversation, but I guess
Well, he's running unopposed, right?
He's running unopposed and I've never heard of it. So maybe what I'll do is do a little bit of research and bring it to the next meeting
Okay.
to see what it actually is.
When is it due by? Is it due before then?
February 22nd.
22nd, but you
Also,
know,
it's due before the next board meeting.
this one can be, this is an easy communication on an email to you. Here's what it is. Is everybody okay with it or no? It's again,
We'll get
doesn't-
some once in a while from Region 1. You know, that's a little different because we're a member there, so.
No, the only other comment is I think we need to follow that joint powers agreement very closely, especially and that'll be a highlight at our meeting this week, but we gotta try to do something, especially with us being the only ones in the state that don't have
You know, we're making good headway. It's just that it's a slower process than any of us would like, but you know, even if there is no extra financial support from the legislature in a bonding bill, we're still gonna need to look to move forward and figure out a way with amongst the districts to finance that.
All right, with that being said, the next school board meeting, I think there's one scheduled for February 28th. That would be our
Just
second
in
meeting.
case.
27th, maybe?
27th, yeah. This is right.
So we'll just say next meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for the 27th. We'll have that if need be. I will tell the group that we're gonna do, not on that meeting. I'll send out evaluations. We'll do superintendent eval in the first meeting in March. I'll sit down with Mike and there's some different things that I could provide him and he responds back, but that would be the intent at that first meeting in March is we'll do the superintendent evaluation. And with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll move.
Amanda seconds.
Mhm.
Everybody in favor of adjourning? Signify by saying